Let me try this again.
Rick, can I say something real quick?
Sure. Yep.
I think we need to clarify that Ty is the co-chair,
Sorry. Uh,
just in general, because every time we're in committee or full council, that everybody kind of says vice chair, the paperwork shows me as the second. So I think,
that's exactly why I keep making that mistake, because the
well, I
paperwork
know
is wrong.
everybody does. And I think, I was last term, and I just think out of respect for Ty that we should maybe
I'm making a
clarify.
note. I'm making a note, Laura, to talk to Virginia tomorrow and get that straightened out.
Thanks.
Thank you, Laura.
Sure.
And Richard, I have not had a major issue with this.
Oh, no, no. It just, there was just never a good time for me to say that. And I'm
Oh,
certainly
not,
not implying
and
that,
yeah, I agree.
Yeah, right is right. We'll straighten it out.
Yeah.
So can you see on your screens the Attleboro Municipal Council Committee motions of March 30th, 2021?
Yes.
Good.
Yeah.
This is the resolution that I want you to consider. I'll read it. I entertain a motion in accordance with the Attleboro City Charter, Section 6-3D, to adopt the following resolution to adopt the Capital Improvement Program for fiscal years 2022-2026. Resolution, City of Attleboro Capital Improvement Program, fiscal years 2022-2026. Whereas the Home Rule Charter approved by the people of Attleboro in November 1973 requires a submission of 5-year capital improvement program at least 6 months prior to the last day of each fiscal year. And whereas the charter calls for yearly adoption by resolution of the council at least a 5-year capital improvement program for the city, and whereas the charter calls for a public hearing, which was held by the council on March 16, 2021, and whereas our municipal fiscal management reflects a plan to reestablish a capital improvement line item in the budget of $600,000 to cover the cost of citywide urgent projects and the facade repairs of 2 schools, and whereas our 2 school system urgent projects of air conditioning and paving combined to a cost over $2 million, they require bonding under a separate procedure. Therefore, the council adopts the capital improvement program for 2022-2026. What are your thoughts?
So this is different than what was in my email.
Yeah,
Is
I'm
it?
reading it again.
Yes.
Little-
Yes, it is, because I added down here $600,000 at the recommendation of our president. And I added the school because he thought that they should be mentioned in the resolution.
Okay, because the air conditioning is a new thing. That's right, right?
The air conditioning, Mark Furtado is working on a contract with Train to try to get all of the air conditioning in the city under a maintenance agreement contract. And he was making good progress until they showed up at the senior center. And something happened there, and Train walked away from it. So he is back at work at trying to reestablish a relationship to be able to build, perhaps even just for the school system, the air conditioning maintenance and repair, because the air conditioning in Hill Roberts and Hyman Fine and Thatcher and Wamsutta all essentially need to be replaced or rebuilt. And we don't know. It's millions. And the options that were also available to Mark and to the council was to replace the old units with new, more efficient, energy efficient, different air conditioners, which would require even more capital restructuring in all those schools. I mean, Peter Thatcher, I don't remember what year that was built, but that's probably the oldest one of all of them. Hill Roberts, Hyman Fine were built together. Willett and Wamsutta and Thatcher. So there's 5 schools there, 5 air conditioning systems. It's a lot. So the school department isn't ready. They don't have an agreement. They don't have, they don't have a, even though it's an urgent need, they don't have a road to get to an RFQ.
Right.
So I don't really know what to say about it other than, when you do figure out what it is, even though it's urgent, it's going to be bonding rather than a budgeted item. Do you think I should say something different? I think we should say something different.
Yeah, I'm not, I mean, I just the one that says, I'm sorry, I guess I probably should have raised my hand. I apologize
That's
for
okay.
that.
The chair's recognizing you, Laura. You have the floor.
Sorry about that. Our municipal fiscal management reflects a plan to reestablish a capital improvements line item in the budget. So if we want a line item in the budget for capital improvements, like it says $600,000 cover cost of city side urgent projects and the facade repairs to 2 schools. I mean, do we want to be like, so we as the capital improvements committee want a line item in the budget? Because I know last term we requested 500,000, correct?
Actually, it was 2 years ago, Laura.
Correct. It was 2 years ago. Last year,
Right.
the whole thing got cut.
All right. So I'm just wondering, do we want to specifically say the city side urgent projects? Clearly, we want to do that. I don't know, just adding that detail in there seems odd to me. I'm not sure why I feel that way.
I'm not following your thinking.
I'm just wondering why we're putting, I mean, we want to, I would end it with line item in budget of $600,000 to cover the cost of city side urgent projects, period, or city, because I mean, it's city as the schools as well.
Yeah.
So you're saying,
I'm just not, and I don't know, and obviously if anybody disagrees with me, I'm just wondering if we need to put that in there, because clearly we all know what we want the money for, right? And then that we want it for capital improvements. I mean, that's just my opinion. If anybody else wants to.
Well, yeah, I'll raise my hand.
okay, if you're all set, Laura,
Yes.
Council
thank you.
Waterman, you have the floor.
Well, I'm just going to build upon what Laura's saying. I think this, just by saying the budget of 600,000 to cover the cost of the city's urgent projects. And
I can't.
that includes the schools in my mind. Do we have to spell it out that it's the schools? I don't know. And then I'm not sure what we do with the last where at. Well, the one that you're highlighting at the moment, the 2 school system. I'm not sure what you mean by 2 school system either.
2 school system urgent projects, or maybe I should say are the.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Yeah, I so that's my French.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I mean, I would just get rid of system because obviously we have one school system, right? So the 2 schools with urgent projects of air conditioning and paving.
Well, we're also including we could possibly be including the facades along with them.
Well, I mean, if it's a separate procedure, why are we putting, if it's a separate bonding issue, why are we putting it in this? So.
Oh, I see what you're saying, yeah.
I mean, again, Rick, you've clearly been here way longer than I. So I don't know how you feel about that. Do you feel like we need to add something that says, hey, we have these projects that we need to bond for?
Well, Mark thought so. The president at the last meeting said that he'd like to see something about the schools in there.
Okay. I mean, I have no problem with it. I just didn't know if it fit in there per se, since it's a bonding issue. But although, it's still a capital improvements issue, so I have no problem leaving it in there.
Um,
Yes,
Can
Council
I,
Waterman.
okay, I probably should share this regarding the schools. I placed a phone call today to get a couple of questions answered, and I was switched over to Mark Furtado. And regarding the two facades, can I speak in specifics about the facades for a moment?
Please do. Yeah.
Okay. The facade on Studley, he told me that the school system has $43,000 available that they would like to use to fix the facade at Studley. And that they are estimating that the rest of the money, and I think he said 37,000 or 30. She said they're estimating another 30,000 will probably be needed to fix the facade at Willett. But I got the impression that they were only had enough money now to fix Studley, and that's what they were hoping to go forward and do. So it would be up to us if we wanted to say something about Willett and fix Willett.
So you think they're going to fund Studley's facade repair this year?
That's the impression he gave me, yes. They have that money now.
Well, I'm of the opinion that the facade at Willett should be funded,
I agree.
because when brick facades are leaking, moisture's getting into the building, and moisture's going to cause mildew, and that's going to be a big problem.
Yeah.
So
I was going to recommend the Willett tonight for sure.
well, I think I'm in agreement with you. Councilor Dolan, you have your hand up.
So I'm wondering if we should like do our regular message, all, generic, begging for money, the usual, and then maybe just put a little blurb in of what we think is a high priority. Because I mean, someone said to me, like, it's kind of like the budget message, right? It's kind of like, here you go. Here's what we think.
Well, as you know, the budget message has never been impactful on the administration.
Right. Has ours either?
Kate's saying something, but she's muted, so it's probably a good thing she's muted.
I mean, how many decades has the budget message been like, oh, that's great, thanks?
Yeah,
I mean-
Council, what I was focusing on was the fight to get a capital improvement line item in the budget.
Right.
That being the single most important accomplishment that I think this committee could accomplish. In speaking with Jeremy and the mayor 2 weeks ago, I got them to agree to put $600,000 in the capital improvement budget. The problem is I don't know how long that's going to survive the process of negotiating with all the needs of all the other departments. In my opinion, the capital improvement project should take precedence over other departments, because represented in this $600,000 are the fire department, parks and forestry, the police department, the public works department, the recreation department, and urgent projects. So, to me, it's very logical, and it's also the best practice for a city to have a fixed number in the budget to be able to get the urgent projects done over the course of the year. With the memo that came out from Dennis Walsh today, which I think we all received, he's already gotten funding for the Bartek ramps done in this year's budget, and he's very firm about his quotes for the remainder of the projects in the rec department. So my thinking, Council Dolan, is that if we could get a line in, if we kept the resolution brief and it made one big important point, perhaps that's the strongest way that we could make our resolution. That was my thinking. But if you know, this is our resolution to the whole council for them to accept, and it doesn't have to be, you know, one person's thought. It should be the three of us, or the six of us that are attending the meeting, opinion of what would be the best thing to put in front of the council and go forward.
Absolutely. So what would happen if we just deleted the last whereas and ended with the line item budget of 600,000 to cover the cost of the city's urgent projects? And that's where the whereases end. Would that still say what you need?
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that.
Okay.
Yes, Council Dolan.
Has anybody, I'm sure somebody's brought it up or recommended it or said something regarding, because I know there's other cities and towns that, you know, and I'm just being hypothetical here. So let's just say all the profit, all the money coming in from the pot shops, let's just say, for example, went to a capital improvements fund. Has anybody ever thought or suggested that something that we take in fees or whatever for goes into a capital improvements fund only to be used for that? Has that ever happened in this city?
Well, that unfortunately is an administrative decision. And I thought, like you, that the pot money was going to be a new revenue and an important large revenue stream. But apparently the mayor's already has plans for that money. He's already decided that he's got a pet project that he wants, an ongoing pet project that he wants to fund through the pot money. So I don't.
Did he send something down with that project and what he wants to do?
No, he did not.
And so you just know this?
Correct.
So, I mean, and not necessarily the pot money. That was just an example. Like we
Right.
have the meals tax where that money goes to the schools, right? That Dumas did. So maybe we should investigate something in the city that we take in money that we could afford for it to go to a capital improvement. Because
I spent a lot of time. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
oh, that's all right. Go right ahead.
I spent a lot of time doing that when I was trying to establish the traffic study control, the traffic control group in the police department. At first, the police chief said that he could do it with 5 officers and 3 patrol cars, and that would give us 2 shifts a day and 1 person in to write all the reports. And he seemed to think that that would be a good idea. And so I looked everywhere to try to find an income stream that we could fund the new traffic control unit. And that's how I learned that the income streams had already been decided and spoken for, and I wasn't going to be able to touch them. It's really an administrative decision. So I was pleased that in next year's budget, there is going to be 1 police officer for a traffic control unit and 1 patrol car, or 2 policemen and 1 patrol car. So there is going to be a beginning of a traffic control group in Attleboro that is going to be separate from the police department, will not be pulled off of traffic detail, and knowing that these are going to be new recruits that are going to go through the academy, and they're going to know that the job that they're taking is a traffic control job, and that there's no promotion line to detective or whatever. In other words, they're not going to be working crimes. They're going to be doing traffic control.
Mm.
So I'm thrilled that happened, and it didn't happen because of a new income stream. It happened because of just natural growth in the budget. The same thing, I think, is of the $600,000 in the line item. You know, we're fortunate that the line item has already been created. It did have $500,000 in it 2 years ago, and we have no control over this going from 600,000 to 0.
No.
And we have no control except in a revolving account where we can control where the money goes. So we just got this revolving account sheet a few weeks ago, and you can see some of these revolving accounts are growing nicely, but in no way is a revolving account ever going to get to $600,000 a year.
Yeah.
I mean, I was just thinking that like at least there would be some guaranteed money. So even if it didn't get to 600,000, it would just be kind of like set aside. It would be guaranteed capital improvements, but you know, a girl can dream, I guess.
Yeah. I think our capital needs are too high.
Well, yeah, we're always playing catch up. I mean, you know,
It seems to me that for many of our capital needs, we end up bonding them.
Because we let them go so long that they are very expensive to repair.
Okay. Yeah.
The other thing that mystifies me is how can a 39-year-old air conditioning unit on top of the police department get fixed for like what do we pass? $14,000 last meeting? And yet in the school department, the whole air conditioner needs to be replaced. And it's not as old as the one that's in the police department.
excellent question.
Councilor Jackson, thank you.
I can't answer this question, but I still agree with you. We still need an engineer within the city, period.
And I'm glad you brought that up. It kind of takes us off the subject, but and I don't want to stray off the subject. I want to stay on the topic of the resolution if I could.
I just feel like I agree with Councilor Jackson. And I feel like we just have missed opportunities that maybe, you know, like in Dennis's email regarding any grants from the Disability Commission. So that's closed now. And we can't let something go that's not ADA compliant. We can't just neglect that. We can't just ignore that. But we missed a window for a grant that could have been possible. And, you know, just like the park, the fence around the fountain, if it's code to rip it down. And, you know, the Parks Department can make it look nice. You know, they make everything look nice. Just stuff like that I feel like we have missed opportunities that to save money. So anyway.
I'm biting my tongue.
Well, it is what it is.
Yes.
I'm pretty comfortable with the rest of what you wrote now.
That's the whole thing on your screen right there.
Yeah.
So do you have a second?
I don't have a second.
I didn't know you were reading the actual motion second.
Well, thank you.
Just reading it to discuss.
Thank you, Councilor Dolan.
Councilor Jackson always has to run the show.
That's okay. We missed that one.
I don't have any problems with that.
I'm just teasing.
Yeah. Okay, I'll third it anyhow.
We got a third.
All right. So shall we vote, or do you want?
Yes, the motion's in order. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, thank you.
Aye.
That will be our capital improvement program recommendation to the full council next Tuesday night. Now I'm going to stop that sharing, and I'm going to move on to the next subject, which is the assessment of the assessment of the information technology department. I am scanning my information technology, assessment of IT needs. There it is. So let me share the screen. And this has been an interesting project. When the new business came in and it got assigned to my committee, I was conflicted because the motion sounded to me like it was more of an administrative detail than it was a city council detail. And I spoke with the president and I asked him for some direction. And he told me how to take the approach. And this was the result. And because I'm an appraiser and I write appraisal reports all the time, the format was rather easy for me to put together. The executive summary says the whole thing. The scope of work talks about everything that I did to find this report. The question that I have for my committee members is that this was a committee assignment. And if you wish to jump into this topic and conduct your own investigations and interviews, I encourage you to do so if you're so inclined. This does not need to be a one-person assessment. I tried to write this assessment in plain English, leaving out all the technical jargon so that it could be understood by more people. And I'm confident that the interviews that I had in my scope of work is sufficient for me to come to a good conclusion. The conclusion is right there on the top of your screens. We've got striking assets and striking deficiencies. The fiber optic is without a doubt the envy of every other city in our area. It handles a tremendous amount of volume without any problems, and it's fast. But the fact that we do not have an emergency generator for our service in City Hall is just unspeakable. And the fact that we're putting in a brand new server location that's remote and there's no plan, no money for a generator for that server either, which I find unacceptable. And even here at the house, my computer at home is connected to an uninterruptible power supply. If we lose power, my computer is still humming right along. And then the third issue is that if Bill gets hit by a truck, Bill gets hit by a bus, all of the programming that he has done is not written down. So that means Dan has to figure out what Bill programmed and repair it if it should go wrong.
How come Dan doesn't know this already?
Dan is being coached by Bill, and Bill is trying to
Excuse me,
transfer knowledge.
Mr. Chairman, I think
Yes.
you should direct them as the MIS director.
Okay. Yes.
MIS director.
Yes. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And that's the way we have it in the report. I stand corrected. Thank you, Councilor Jackson. So it's a small department. It's only a 2-person department, and it's a very busy department. So there's only limited time that transfer of knowledge can be passed on. This is probably true of every city that has a MIS director. This is probably not an issue that's unique to Attleboro. And Bill has several years before he retires, so in my opinion, there's time to accelerate the transfer of knowledge and maybe change the policy in the department so that there is something written down somewhere. So I'll go through, and I think you've all read this, correct? Yes, you had a chance to read it? Good.
Yes, but it's helpful to go through it again.
Okay, yep. So the new business that was sent into the to the committee was to request a needs assessment of IT for the city and the impact from the pandemic on the requirements and equipment needed. It ended there, and I did not want to expand it any further than what the new business was calling for. So they wanted an assessment. This is the assessment for the information technology for the city. And included in this assessment is what the city has done as a result of the pandemic to equip its workers with what they need to be able to do their jobs. And I was fortunate that I had a long interview with the fire chief. The police chief sent me a long letter. We have two people in the city of Taunton that I'm very close to that gave me a lot of time to explain to me how city systems function and work. And turns out that Taunton has some system design that's under the envy of a lot of people because it's a brand new city hall. And sitting right outside the city hall is a generator the size of a locomotive train that powers the entire building should the power go off within 3 seconds. So the IT, the MIS director and the IT manager of Taunton, I want to thank them. They're a big help, as well as I'm a federal member of the MIS for the weather system, also a very big help. But Bill gave me unrestricted access, which was very nice. We spent a couple of meetings discussing this. One with the mayor, one alone, and I think, and he's already read this document, and he agrees that there's no errors in this document. The department itself, when the MIS director got the grant from the governor's community compact council for the backup servers, that was a major win. That instantly made the system so much more secure. The core switch that he just installed in March took us 2 years to get through the capital improvement program as an urgent project. 1 year, it was on the docket, and I was pushing the MIS director to purchase it, but unbeknownst to me, there was a technology change going on in core switches, and he was waiting to see how the new technology would play out. And as sure enough, in the second year, the company introduced a new core switch, which is the one that we bought, and the bugs have been pulled out of it, and it's got a warranted life of 7 years. So that core switch is a very important part of the system. When that remote backup service station is up, everybody's going to breathe a little bit more easily. In the city, every building has its own system, and it's all connected with this local area network and fiber. And in each building, everybody who wanted a laptop got one at the pandemic, so that they could go home and they could work from home. So there were 41 laptops and 17 were added, and the Chromebooks, those are really the school department, so we can just forget about those. I thought I had edited this one. The wastewater department and water department got some laptops as well. And those, Bill and I talked a lot about why did we buy new laptops versus refurbished ones, because we could have gotten a lot more equipment if we had gotten refurbished. And he feels that new equipment is the only way to go. and I respect his opinion about that. There's a new grant that was just obtained to hire an outside vendor to train and test city employees on their email behavior, to be more skeptical, if you will, of messages that come into the city from people they don't know, to train them that you just don't open up any old email and read it. That sometimes it's best to call the person who sent it and question it, or not open it until until you're sure that it's safe. And that grant includes a company testing the city employees by sending out emails that are seemingly not suspicious, but are in fact should not be opened. The MIS director is doing his best to transfer knowledge, and I see this in many city departments, not just in Attleboro's IT department, that city workers, especially busy city workers, which many of them are very busy, are more concentrated on getting the work done than they are on leaving a paper trail of what it was they did to get the work done. That's not an uncommon situation. Finally, in the reconciliation, there is a growing need for a geographic information system management capability inside the city. That's across the board everywhere, and very few towns and cities have actually funded the position because, number one, finding the people is next to impossible. When the human resource director for the city of Taunton 3 years ago was asked to find a geographic information system graduate that could be brought into the city as a low-level graphics GIS manager, she found that all of the colleges offering GIS training and curriculum had placements for their students during their junior year, that there was no student graduating from college that didn't already have a job. So that's going to be on the back burner for a while. And that's pretty much what this assessment says. Councilor Dolan.
So first, geographic information systems manager, you want to give me the cliff notes on that? What would be our purpose for hiring a person of such?
The assessor, the conservation agent, the city planner, the police department, the fire department, the did I say assessors?
Yes.
All could use a geographic information system capability for coordination, mapping, and taxation. So in the world of computer management, there is a company called ESRI that invented a software program called ArcGIS that is used by the federal government and states and cities and towns, as well as corporations worldwide, to manage things that can be observed from space. So that from space. So the satellites that are orbiting the Earth that give us the navigation in your automobile, also capable of generating imagery. And in addition to that, airplanes equipped with stereo cameras on each wing fly over areas to get even higher resolution, detailed images. on a regular basis so that you can see the changes between, say, April and September of 2021.
And how would this benefit the city?
It would benefit the city because the conservation agent could use it for tracking changes to the ecology. The assessor could use it for tracking changes in improvements on land for taxation. Police detectives would use it for coordinating their activities. Fire departments use it to coordinate. So, for example, if there's a fire breaks out on a street, the fire chief can get an aerial image of the area, and he can direct, say, North Attleboro to park their trucks over here on the north, Seekonk to attack the fire from this direction, and do it all graphically. So they have a map, a photograph of the fire site with directions on how the fire is going to be attacked. Who else? So the city planning would use it for exactly that, and it is becoming much more common, Councilor Dolan, in those trades, assessing, conservation, city planning, to utilize geographical information systems in their work.
Okay,
Yep.
so I just have like a couple follow-ups. Can I keep going?
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
So I think that's like off the table.
Yes, it
And,
is.
So the only question, so my concerns are this. So the MIS director, I don't know what you call Dan, what his title is. Is he an assistant, vice director? I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I just don't know exactly his title. But how long has he been with the city
I don't know.
in this department?
I don't know.
So my concern is, this knowledge needs to be shared. We can't afford for the city to be forget the getting hit by a bus, which is a horrific graphic. Let's just talk about maybe the flu. So I think we need to pass on this information. It needs to be shared, and it needs to be, I think that's a huge priority. That's one of my biggest concerns. And my second concern, as far as like a backup generator, like you were discussing. So I feel like reading this document, I'm not really clear on the new business. If this is the direction that these counselors were requesting it go. I'm not sure if the needs assessment was supposed to be like and I know Councilor DeSimone and Cobus are here, so maybe they could clarify their goal on what this needs assessment is, because I feel, I hate to admit it, but I feel extremely confused by this. And so again, from this discussion, I feel like the biggest issue is the sharing the knowledge, and to have if we need a generator, this is clearly a big deal. When we're talking about capital improvements of paving parking lots and doing other things, if this is crucial to the city, and I don't pretend to be super in touch with MIS stuff, but if this is, to me, in my head, it sounds crucial, because I have a generator at my house, and obviously it's not gonna, wouldn't cost anywhere near what this would. But if this is something that this city needs, I think that should be urgent priority over almost anything else. So again, I know Cobus and DeSimone are here, and I don't know if you want them to speak. I just feel like we went through this whole thing, and I feel like at the end it was like the summary was like, we're good, like everything's great, but I don't remember seeing anything in the capital improvements for a generator. If that's, I don't know. I think that's a big deal, and I don't know if I'm just off base. But that concludes my comments. Thank you.
Well, the council, you're not off base, and I'm gonna recognize Councilor Jackson in a moment, and then Councilor Cobus. You both had your hands up, and then after that, we will ask Councilor DeSimone and Councilor Cobus to comment on the intent of the new business and whether or not we've met that goal. But Councilor Dolan, I am absolutely in line with everything you just concluded with. That was the whole point of the assessment. Is that we don't even have the generators in the urgent projects of the capital improvement plan because nobody put them there.
Right, I don't understand why it wasn't, if it is something that's critical, why hasn't it been requested from the MIS director in the capital improvements? That, and again, I don't, if it is crucial and obviously somebody of a better standing and maybe a higher pay grade than me needs to clarify, because I'm just a regular person, but it sounds like this is super important. So why it hasn't been requested and why it hasn't been filled is I don't understand it. I'm not clear on that at all. Preparation is key.
Agree.
So.
Councilor Jackson.
Thank you. Oops. Thank you, Council Conti. First of all, I don't ever recall in the 14 years I've been on the council, anyone ever requesting to have a generator put in to City Hall anywhere in the city. Number one, that's number one. Number two is that would normally come from, I would assume that would come from the administration right away to say, you know what, we've got to upgrade, we need to upgrade this building. This is what we need to do. Number three is the MIS director. You know what? He's only given what he's allowed to be given. And, they're working really closely and they're working super, super hard to keep everything up and running. Like I've walked in on a Saturday morning at like 6:00 in the morning after leaving the gym, and I come in to City Hall and grab my paperwork, and there's Bill coming out of the police station. I'm like, hey, how you doing, Bill? I don't want to see him because I'm like a hot mess, but he's there and he's going home because everything's a mess over at the police station because there were things that were going on and he's fixing it all. So I give them a lot of credit because they can only work with what they have. But right now it's up to us and the administration to figure out how we can make it so much better for the city. But the generator, I've never, ever, ever, I don't believe anyone has ever spoken about it before.
No, not either.
It's kind of good that we're talking about that. I just don't know why we never have before.
Councilor Dolan, excuse me, Councilor Cooper, we'll get to you. Councilor Dolan, you had a question for Kate?
Yeah, no, I don't think anybody questions Bill's the MIS director's dedication. I don't think anybody, and again, I know he's only given what he's allowed to have, but that doesn't stop any other department from asking. So if Bill was here, I would ask him, does it keep him up at night that we don't have a generator? And if it does, then we need to ask for one or request one or whatever the case is. So that was my point in that. And again, I'm not sure if I'm accurate in what I'm thinking. It's just what I'm thinking.
You are. In my interview with Bill, when I found it striking that we didn't have a generator for the new servers in the remote location, nor a generator in City Hall for the servers, he agreed with me that it was a well, I think I called it a striking. What did I call it? I called it a striking deficiency, and he agreed to that. And Councilor Jackson is absolutely right. That IT department and that MIS director are doing the best they can with the resources that they have available to them. And perhaps they need more resources. I'm going to recognize Councilor Cobus, and then I'll get to you, Councilor Waterman, after we talk to Councilor DeSimone.
Fine.
Councilor Cobus, you have the floor.
Perfect. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. So I very much agree that the MIS director is certainly overworked. But one of the things we always talk about at the day job is this concept of no heroes. And the fact that, you listed here coming in and seeing him all hours of the night working, that's just sort of enabling the city to get by without sort of fixing the underlying problem. And so I think that in and of itself is a pretty big concern. But generally speaking, I want to talk towards the intent of the new business that was introduced. Um, I don't. I I appreciate this document. I agree with a lot of the conclusions, but I don't think it achieves what my initial intent was. And I think I'd like to have a holistic review done by an external professional that's familiar with municipal um, IT systems throughout the country come and review our entire system and provide guidance and for us to pay for um, somebody to come in and provide that assessment. Because things, Councilor Jackson kept talking about, oh, I've never heard of this generator thing. We need the generator. I want to take a step. I think there's value in taking a step back, because when you talk about needing a generator for the on-prem and off-prem backups, is on-prem like what year is it? Like, what do you mean we still have like local servers? And why aren't these things in the cloud and maintained and backed up by third-party companies that have a 99.9999% uptime and that are far better at maintaining? Like, why are we doing this ourselves as opposed to using professional companies, at which point we can then reduce our IT staff? And so I think there's a lot of value in sort of reviewing the whole system holistically. I know earlier this week somebody was looking for information on the city's website, and it's impossible to find things on that site. I like everything across the board in my mind within the city's IT system is antiquated and could use review. And if we're doing sort of an overall review, I'd like somebody with experience outside of the city, with professional experience, to come in and review everything, because I don't know that backup generator makes sense. When we talk about the GIS person, I know I was trained on ArcGIS in the military, used it overseas on both deployments. I've used it on the council before. I have a personal license. The ArcGIS stuff that we do locally isn't the rocket science that people go to college for. If we're talking about just changing zoning maps, or like, there's some stuff that we can do ourselves, but I don't even know that, like, do we want to hire an ArcGIS person when there's Mass GIS and all these other resources in Oliver and all these other things that are now available? I honestly don't know what the answer is. Like, or it's sort of like the old question of, is it easier to teach a chemist software engineering or teach a software engineer chemistry? I don't know where sort of the overlap is between like city planning and the ArcGIS pieces that we need. Like, can we send somebody to a class? So I think a holistic overall review is what we need. Any other yeah, and then the other thing I wanted to mention is, um, as part of that review, also reviewing water and wastewater and their network needs, especially with where there was just that recent security thing, and then they all had TeamViewer installed and weren't necessarily doing the risk mitigation that I think made sense. It was obvious with a quick review. It's since been mitigated, but like, seeing those things makes me feel that a review from a third party is valuable, and that's sort of what I was hoping to see as part of this. Although I do appreciate the document that you prepared. So that concludes my comments.
Councilor DeSimone, you have the floor.
Thank you, Councilor Conti. I'll keep it brief. I will echo everything that Councilor Kovas said and defer to his expertise. I was coming at it simply of the perspective of that the pandemic is a line in the sand. There's before and there's after. I was not interested in as much as how we responded to what happened, but where do we go from here? Because we are in a new world in terms of employees working from home, the demands on the system for when they work at home, things that they want, the interaction of residents and the expectations of them to do things online. It's a new world. So I was looking for a more prospective approach to where do we go from here and what do we need to get there and be effective. So I appreciate the work that you've done. And I also appreciate your point that to some degree, this is also an administrative consideration as well. But that's what I was looking at it from, much more prospective. Where are we? Where do we go from here? But I do appreciate your work thus far.
So, Councilor DeSimone, would you concur with Councilor Cobus that perhaps an outside entity might be more appropriate for this new business than this assessment that we have in our hands?
I believe so, and perhaps for different reasons than Councilor Kovas is. I think Councilor Kovas is much more well-versed on the tech side. I think the outside is good because there aren't the relationships, because I don't know the MIS director personally. I have no doubt that he's doing a good job. I think we need to take the personal out of it. That is not serving us necessarily well as we look forward to the future for several reasons. So yes, I think an outside resource would be best for the technical reasons, as well as the objectivity that it will provide and the comprehensive nature of their scope of review. So yes, I'm in agreement.
Councilor Waterman.
Well, I agree entirely with Councilor DeSimone there, but that isn't why I raised my hand. I wanted to know if what the management information system that Department of Budget and Administration is requesting in the book, does this have anything to do with what we're talking about? It's regarding backup storage. I'll just read the one paragraph. This capital project entails purchasing software and hardware to create a remote backup solution outside of City Hall in case of a catastrophic failure at City Hall. Capital project is anticipated to be implemented in 2026, so it does not include maintenance costs at this time, as they are not known. Such costs will be established at the time when the capital project is implemented. It's listed at 119,000 plus. Is that at all connected to what you're talking about?
No.
Okay. Well, sorry about that.
Okay. I'm wondering, where do we go from here? Is this a document that we want to present to the full council, or do we want to work on this more, or do we want to suspend it and make a recommendation to the council that we want to recommend to the administration that we need an outside service? What are your thoughts on that?
I think that I would agree with having an outside service. We can make that recommendation. I mean, I would certainly, you know, the folks the councils that introduced this new business. I mean, if that's ultimately what they were looking for, I mean, I think your report is good and it shouldn't be just tossed. But, maybe we do need to take it a step further and ask those questions like Councilor Kovas was saying. Maybe that just shows my old age talking about a generator. Maybe we don't need a generator. Maybe the cloud can just handle it all. And I think it's just I think it's a trust factor, because clearly we have information in the city that we want to make sure that nobody gets their hands on. And I know that, they were MIS was resistant to let us use laptops and such. And I get why, because I'm old and I understand that. But maybe it's time to get with the program. Maybe we do need an outside person that can look at it like Councilor DeSimone said, with just a clean eye and not know anybody, and give us some real truth of what we need to do and to do it right and what it's going to take. I don't know. That's just my opinion.
No, it isn't just your opinion. I would agree with everything you just said. I find myself wondering, where do you find such a person or a company that does it?
I'm sure they're out there. So can I summarize our discussion by saying that perhaps the assessment report that we have should be expanded to the future, like Councilor DeSimone was saying, the line in the sand, that's behind us. Everything has changed. Where we're going on the front forward, that's beyond the ability of this committee to predict. And further points to the need for an outside consultant. And then maybe the assessment should be pushing that, of an outside consultant. It's very natural for me as chairman of the capital improvements to have this assessment turn into a recommendation to solve some deficiencies that the backup generators seem to be something that is needed, and Council Kobus said it so beautifully, and I didn't write it down, but the resources in the IT department either need to be expanded or replaced. I don't know which. I don't. I mean, I agree that when you are on the outside and you're working on your computer and you're probably on the cloud. You're probably all on the cloud. I'm on the cloud, but the city's not on the cloud because of a security issue. And Taunton's not on the cloud. So, it's not just Attleboro that's taking this approach. So I'm rambling. I think what we need to do is probably expand what we have in this assessment before we present it to the full council, or we should present this to the full council and have them reject it, or I don't know what to do. Council Dolan.
I think maybe if we want to hold it till the next committee meeting, or maybe not necessarily take it out as a motion, we can tell the rest of the council what we discussed, and maybe get some opinions if we're going in the right direction. Because I think I think we need to go in the direction of what Councilor Kobus and DeSimone said of, and Councilor Delicio is not here. And I assume he would feel the same way as the two other councilors that submitted this new business. But, maybe it's time to have somebody take a look at what we do and make sure we're doing it right. And maybe give us, we can't have the assistant not know everything that's in the director's head. So maybe if there was something more technologically savvy, that we wouldn't have to, cross our fingers that the MIS director doesn't get the flu. That's just.
Councilor DeSimone, you have the floor.
Thank you, Councilor Conti. 2 points, if I may, to consider for your consideration. Number one, in as much as this will require action and funding from the administration, might you want to broach this topic with the mayor and the budget director before perhaps we move forward, just to see what their thoughts are? And number two, I'm wondering relatedly, because this, if it's shaped as being a response to the pandemic, if there's any CARES funds available, because I know there's a bunch of money coming down from the feds of late So if we, depending upon how you, what's the word I'm looking for, how you mold this inquiry or shape it may dictate whether or not it might fall under that kind of funding. So I respectfully suggest perhaps you run it by the mayor and Jeremy before you proceed, but that's all. Thank you.
Thank you for the recommendation. Councilor Jackson.
Council Conti, I totally agree with Council DeSimone. Let's hold this and let's research it. Like, yes, there is money coming down and we might be, eligible for something like that. So let's have a look and see. We've waited this long. Why not wait a little bit longer? Maybe we get it for free.
Thank you. Councilor Kovas.
Would it be possible to convert this over to a resolution where you have the whereas clauses where you sort of list out the current state of things, and then just say we encourage the administration to seek external help in a overall network evaluation where it addresses, I listed sort of 4 sort of low level basic holistic things. One being sort of, is IT as a service a solution and moving things towards more of a cloud solution a better idea? Is GIS still needed, or evaluate the needs there? Another thing that I've had a number of conversations with the police chief was talking about leasing versus buying. I know in the corporate world, they tend to be moving away from purchasing computers and now leasing, so that there's sort of that steady every 4 years they're replacing computers. I don't know if that makes sense for a municipality, but like, let's look at those low level things. So IT as a service, GIS, leasing, and then the overall network architecture for water, wastewater, police, fire, in the school. Like, is there structural things that we should be doing there that are different, and that would allow more remote access? And the other thing, so if it was a resolution that listed sort of our current state and asked for an assessment that looked at those individual items, I think there would be value. And I think there's value in doing so sooner than later, because one of the new pieces of business is a new piece of business in Kate's committee, talks about the what was it, the DPW diagnostic tool. And one of the things associated with that is that's all uses cloud storage, and keeps track of all the vehicles in the cloud, and sort of signs us up to this new cloud system that's proprietary to that company. And I don't know anything about that system, or is it compatible with other systems that we use? And so I mean we'll talk about that during council, but like, the longer we wait, the more we're making decisions that hopefully we don't have to reverse based on what the overall assessment, and when we have that IT plan in place, it can help us make those decisions in a smarter manner. Does that make sense?
It does. Makes perfect sense. So I'm inclined to hold this. What are your thoughts about that? Councilor Dolan, Councilor Waterman,
Agree.
you okay with that?
I'm
Okay, good.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Go.
Wonderful, wonderful. That's what we're going to do. So to summarize, on the assessment, I'm going to hold it. I'm going to speak with the mayor and Jeremy about this document and the potential for a consultant. I will discuss with the council president whether or not we want to add a resolution to the back of this, or just use this as a support to a resolution as a new document. And I'll make sure that when I'm talking about the consultant, that I bring up Councilor Kobus's 4 points, one being IT as a service. Number 2, GIS, is it needed or not? Number 3, leasing versus buying. And number 4, the overall network architecture analysis. And we'll go forward from there, or we will hold it. Sometimes doing nothing also works. So does anyone have, yeah, I know. Yeah. Don't get me started. Um,
Looks like Cobus has his hand up.
it's Council Cobus.
It's kind of covered by IT as a service, but I would throw the city's website in there because I know in talking to constituents, I hear grumbling about that on a regular basis. So just so we're explicit about that.
Thank you. I do want to include your comments accurately.
Thank you.
Committee members, is there anything else you wish to bring before the committee? Anything you want to discuss?
Yes,
Council Warman, you have the floor.
assuming that we end up with a budget, okay, whatever it comes out to end up being, do you anticipate down the road holding another committee meeting similar to the one we had 2 years ago, where we each came in with the priorities that we would like fitting within whatever that budget is?
I think if to answer your question, Councilwoman, I think that's going to be absolutely necessary because I don't believe we're going to wind up with $600,000 as a capital improvement line item in the budget. So
Right.
we can get our resolution out the door and we get it to administration on time before the budgeting session starts, which is the whole point of getting that capital improvement plan in January, right? So we're gonna meet that. We're gonna meet that objective, even though the book was delivered late this year, so that the mayor at least is getting the recommendation from the committee and the council that $600,000 should be put in the budget as a capital improvement line item. That won't survive. I know it won't survive. It hasn't survived in the 12 years that I've been a city councilor or the 14 years that Kate's been a city councilor. So we're going to have to get together and regroup, Councilor Waterman, and we're going to have to duke it out and figure out what are we going to go to fight for, and what are we going to prioritize and get done quickly, and lobby for that to happen, much like you did for the gym floors.
I thought that was a productive approach.
Yeah, and they're still not done.
Oh, well, it will be. No, thank you very much. I understand.
Okay, you all set, Council Dolan? Can I entertain a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I declare the council committee adjourned at 8:11. Thank you all for your input. Most
Enjoy your
valuable.
holiday on Sunday.
Yes,
Happy
another
holiday.
pandemic Easter. Oh boy.
Hey, listen, I
Yay.
hope you guys got the candy for the kids. I heard it's slim pickings out there.
Hey,
Boy.
I'm way ahead of the game.
Well, y'all better be. I heard it's slim pickings.
And I have plenty of Lysol for you too.
They're all on boats waiting to go through the Suez Canal. All that candy sitting in those boats spoiling. Goodbye, everybody. Thank you for being
Bye.
here.
Thanks.